Hey friends, it's Sarah Noel Block, founder of Tiny Marketing, and this is Marketing a Tiny Bit Smarter, where we dive into marketing topics and give you actionable advice you can implement today. Housekeeping note, if you have any questions, ask them in the comments at any time. At the end of the session, we'll answer any questions that come through. Today, Janet Mesh of Aimtal is joining me to teach you how to create lead generating webinars. I discovered Janet because I was obsessed with one of her clients' content, like bookmarking it constantly, referring back to it. And then I learned that she was behind it and I became obsessed with her. So I'm super excited to have her, and I am going to pull her into the stream right now. Hey.
Hey, Sarah. You're too kind. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Can you tell me a little bit about your business?
For sure. Hi, everyone who's tuning in or will be tuning in. I'm Janet Mesh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aimtal. We're a digital and content marketing agency. So we started the business a little over 2 years ago now. And we primarily work with companies in the B2B tech space. So doing pretty much full service marketing, everything from webinars like we'll be talking about today to social media management, advertising, content creation, execution. So excited to kind of dive into specifically webinars today and give some advice.
Me too. I always end up being the speaker on them and never the one actually putting them on. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that today.
Yeah.
They're huge right now. And I was curious if you know, like if you can explain why they're so big right now.
Well, definitely for 2020, we weren't doing a ton of webinar work last year. But of course, everything exploded because of COVID. Thanks global pandemic. But actually, I mean, of course, it's been a really trying year, but also an exciting year with like a lot of innovation. And what we saw with our clients, since a majority of them are in B2B tech and their sales team really relies on those in-person events for lead generation, there's no more events. So, and I actually love anyone tuning in. If you've experienced this, do let us know. It'd be cool. It'd be nice to hear what other people's experiences have been this year. So in particular for, our clients and seeing for other clients is that doesn't go away where you need to connect with your audience and prospects and customers. So webinars are just a really strategic tool and strategy in order to connect one-to-one with your customers and prospects, and still being able to provide that content that you maybe would be doing at in-person events in your sessions.
Yeah, I know a lot of my clients pivoted real fast from going to these in-person events to webinars. It's a great way to connect with your audience
for sure,
one-to-one, when you can't do that in person anymore.
I feel like people kind of had a heads up in March, April too, because all the big tech companies like Google and Twitter, the massive developer conferences were getting canceled earlier on then, so it just started to trickle down across every industry. So for us as well, we were able to kind of track that and be all right, we need to start making some plans on what we're going to replace it with.
Yeah, you work in that tech space. You work with all of those companies. So you probably got to get an early peek at what life was going to be like.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, look at my coloring.
Oh no.
Can you tell me about your client Glide? I'm going to fix this real fast. I'm going to keep you on the screen and me off. But can you tell me about Glide Fast and how you help that?
Yeah, for sure. So while Sarah's coming back, so one of our, kind of what I was just talking about a little bit, one of our clients in particular, they have this really massive conference that they participate in every year. And of course it didn't happen. So we were okay, what are we going to do? And they're a ServiceNow implementation partner and service provider. And they have almost 200 consultants on their team. And a lot of them are true experts in their industry and in their field. So they all submit really amazing presentations for this conference. And so what we did was we're okay, we already have all this content. What should we do with it? And the team and my team at Aimtal, and then their internal marketing team, we came up with the idea to just turn this into like its own webinar series. So we had enough content actually. Yay, Sarah's back. We had enough content to turn the presentations that we had for this in-person conference, we turned into a webinar series, and it actually mapped out to be like 3 months of webinars. And we did like a bit of a programmatic approach where it was like the same time and same day every week. And we put like a brand to it too, which was kind of a differentiator in the space. We called it GlideFast On Air, so that it had like its own like kind of bit of its own brand identity. It had like consistency in when we were putting out the content in the webinars, like every Thursday at 1 p.m., for example. Yeah, and we did that in the spring for like 3 to 4 months actually. And people really loved it, and like some of their partners want to get involved. So it was really amazing to see how it was evolving in itself. And the leads that we generated from the webinar pretty much replaced like what we generate in person. So yeah. So we figured like, well, we don't really necessarily have to have these like there's no longer a gap because we're able to do everything digitally now.
So tell me, how are you able, like when you're doing these in-person events, you have the opportunity to meet people, you'll get a list from the event. How are you able to get all of those leads from the webinar and get it out there?
Yeah, so we just set it up. We actually use Zoom for it. The Zoom has like a webinar capability, so we use that. And they have HubSpot, so we like integrated HubSpot and Zoom. And like the form when people like sign up for the webinar, we just generate them into like a top of funnel lead, is how we treat them. And then we would bring them through as like kind of like a nurture campaign with like email and kind of engaging them that way. I don't know if I'm exactly answering the question, but
yeah, I'm curious about the integrated marketing campaigns that you create to generate these leads for webinars.
Yeah. So of course, it's like all the technical stuff of like setting up the form and everything working together. But we treated the webinar like its own campaign, like you just mentioned, Sarah. So it was like, all right, what's like the promotion plan on social? We had paid advertising budget. So we did like boosted posts on LinkedIn. We did like YouTube advertising, Twitter advertising, just regular LinkedIn advertising, Google text and display ads to drive like traffic for people to register for the webinars. And honestly, it wasn't like tons of money. Like it like a small budget actually goes a long way for this because it's really like valuable content that people do want to like learn more about. Like it's pretty niche. So the topics that people were like, oh, I really want to like know about this.
Yeah. You picked things that you knew that they would like, and so it made it a little bit easier to succeed in that with those ad dollars.
Exactly. And also like kind of creating it like its own brand in a way. So it was like GlideFast On Air. So just kind of like having that like recognition. It had a little bit of its own like design style, like our team of designers like created, which was just really cool and like just something different and fun. So yeah, we and then of course we did like email promotion. Actually pulled an interesting stat. According to like a recent GoToWebinar survey and study on like from their platform and like users, 50% of all webinar registrations came from email. So and we definitely
is amazing.
Yeah. So I think that's a really important aspect of like the strategy too, of like getting people to like attend and register for the webinars. And we are very big on planning ahead and like mapping everything out. So for the email specifically, like, you definitely want to try to work. It's great to have like a 4-week runway, honestly, to promote a webinar. And we like to send like promotion email like 2 weeks before. But what we actually see is like if you send an email the day before, that's when we would get the most registrations.
Okay, the day before. All right, so
but you want to like it's like, but you still want to send those ones before. So it's kind of like reminding people, like staying top of mind, and then they finally like commit and convert like the day before.
Okay, so 4-week marketing campaign, and then you can expect your biggest bang of registrants the day before.
Yeah. Also, I think it's totally fine too. Like people are just so busy all the time, and a lot of people will also, of course, you want people to show up the day of, and that's really important, engaging them like live. But a lot of people also will register, and I know that I do this myself, to get the recording later. Like I'll sign up for webinars and like watch them like later when I'm cooking dinner, for example. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to like listen into that. Like I'll just get the recording and then I'll listen to it later. And I think that's a really important aspect of the strategy for webinars. Like what's that follow-up, and like what's the experience going to be for like a viewer if they're not there live as well.
Yeah, like, do you gate it for one? Do you? I'm curious. What do you guys?
Yeah, so we actually did test that, and we gated some of the webinars, especially ones that were like customer stories and a little bit more like confidential information, maybe. And we did see people would fill in the form to access that content after the webinar, but it wasn't like the highest numbers, to be honest. And we were just like, what's really I love about like my client is like they really believe in like giving back to their community and like sharing information and like educating. So we're like, it really just makes sense. And like their CEO was like, honestly, like let's just put it let's just put it out. Like, why not? And I was like, all right, like that's not like if you guys are okay with that, like it's not like the post, follow up with leads and like sure. And it's actually we host everything on YouTube, all the video, so it's done extremely well on YouTube and those keywords and like ranking for that content. So it's it depends. It depends on like what your goals are, to be honest. I think there's something to be said to just have things like available for people to access after the fact.
Yeah. That's what I do with this. The majority of people who watch the live stream show, it's after the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to find the time to come on live. And I saw that a lot with webinars that I've managed too. It's just, you can fit it in when you actually have time to watch it.
For sure. Do you recommend like a strategy for like follow up, like comments or things like that then, or like engaging afterwards?
Yeah, with the comments, I usually set aside a time where I'm like, okay, I'm going to just check my comments on every platform. Right. The same day, same time, respond to everything, and then go back and do it again. So yeah, it's not real time conversation, but it's at least it's something, and I'm connecting with them in a way.
Definitely.
So if your goal is lead generation and people are watching the recorded one that's open, what is a strategy to use to get new leads when you have your webinar on YouTube?
So you can like leverage like a lot of like YouTube in the description, like optimizing that with like subscribe links or like links over to like your website. It's probably not like the most, like it's not like one-to-one, but at least like explaining there like where people can like learn more, like access more content. And we created actually like a landing like an on-demand like library on their website and like drive people there, so they would go, instead of bringing them kind of like through YouTube, which we do, we also encourage them to go back to the website to see all the other content as well, and having it in two places. That way, like they're, getting that brand recognition and coming into the website and trying, seeing all the other content that we have available, because there's like a ton of like inner resources.
Yeah, I've gone on that landing page, like the hub for all of their webinars. And I love that format. It's like structured like it would be for a blog.
Right. Yeah, like the title.
The different topics. Yeah, but they're all webinars. I like that. And something else that I do for this is you can also repurpose that content that you have for that webinar and write blogs around it. Hi, just got a comment. You can repurpose doing that way, or you could do like the transcripts for it. What is it? Scribby, I think, that will do the translations for you. And then one of my friends always creates these little micro videos from webinars where she'll take clips with like fun sound bites and use that on social. There's just so much you can do with video.
Yeah. And I think it also like comes back, like, of course, like it's like around like generating the leads, and that's definitely going to come from like the promotion in the beginning of like, and that's why we like to give like that 4-week runway. So we're having enough time. Another like really effective strategy is like, if there's an opportunity to bring in a guest speaker, like a partner for your business, something like that, like that's just double the audience. Like you're just already amplifying right out the gate. So like finding people you can partner with and like have on that way that, and then you just can figure out like what that process is for like, most people are very like understand that they're setting up something, they're going to get communication afterwards. It just comes down to like, is your communication and content after that webinar like helpful and informative, or are you annoying? So we always have to err on like, even once you have the lead in, like you're still in the process of like nurturing like your experience with that person, and like maybe they could be a customer or not. So sending them content after, like being really informative and educational, just starts to like build that relationship with them instead of just seeing people as just a number on your screen.
That makes so much sense. You can, like, once someone signs up for your webinar, or at least to get a recording, you can put them into a nurture track where they're getting more content. You already know they're interested in that,
that's
in that topic, so you can educate them even further with that.
Exactly. We have that automated in HubSpot. So like we'll send them like the recording after, of course, and then in our webinars, and then we actually send like another email after that's just like a little like short recap, because we don't like to assume that people like even were able to take the time to like watch it. So we're like, okay, like here's some like top takeaways for you. And then like the third email will be like a piece of content, like a guide or a checklist or something like that related to the topic. So we create like an entire other like content stream.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it like elevates it too. It takes your webinar and people are able to take action from it when you provide that content upgrade.
Exactly. So exactly. So then you can see like what other things that like someone's interested in or not, and like tailor things like accordingly.
Okay. So talking about that 4-week lead-in, the webinar, what are things that you should do before the webinar ever goes live? What's like your checklist?
Oh man, it's definitely a long one. Let's see. Let's see. So there's like there's so many things. So of course, like the first thing is like a topic. Like what are you going to even be talking about? And we like to like sometimes test with like polls like on social to get like some ideas of what people would be interested in like learning about. You do like some SEO research to see like some, things that people are searching for is like a good place to start. And then of course, like picking your time and date. So pretty much just all the logistics of like, when's it going to happen? Where is it going to happen? And then like with whom? So like you need to identify like your speakers, and then if you're going to have like any partners involved. It's also very important that maybe some people like who are listening now or later, if you're the one that's like speaking and presenting, you definitely want to have like someone on your team or on your marketing team or your agency or whomever that's going to like help kind of manage the webinar, because it's like it's a lot to like be talking and presenting and then trying to manage the chat and like all these other like there's technical difficulties. So definitely invest in like at least even one person who can back you up.
In the lighting, or right before this, we hear each other. That's why we get on a little bit early and test it.
Exactly. Yes, and that's like kind of like later on, of course. Like just giving yourself some buffer time before, like to test out your mics, and you can. This is the thing, like you can do a really amazing webinar with like pretty like low budget. Like you can just grab your laptop, you have a camera in it, set it up, like get in a pretty quiet room if you can. Like I have like a Yeti mic. Like you don't necessarily need that, but like some people.
That's
like,
what I have too. I love it.
Me too. I love it. So it's up to like if you want your speakers to have this type of equipment. Of course, like that would be incorporating some sort of budget, and then once you have like everything established of like writing the description, putting everything up, like creating the form for people to register and all that good stuff. That's when we would then like segue into like, okay, what's the marketing plan? How are we promoting this? How are we getting people to like register? What is it on social? What is it on email? And then if you're able to like, what's the advertising budget to try to promote it to a wider audience? And then of course there's like the day a couple days before, we like to do dry runs actually.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And like just putting like a half hour on the calendar, like a couple days before the webinar is really nice. It's also really nice to like have, if you have multiple speakers, for everyone to meet beforehand so that they can just like get to know each other and like network a little bit. It's a good opportunity for them to connect too.
Yeah, that's good.
And then like go through the presentation and see like any kinks or things like that, and just setting the expectations beforehand. So then the day of, you're not doing all of that right before and then jumping into the webinar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it can be a lot. Like right now, my laptop is sitting on some paper, so it's at a higher height. And I'm looking at the chat while changing banners and whatnot.
Exactly.
It's a lot at one time. It would be great to have another person to manage it.
Yeah, but like case in point though, like Sarah's like managing all of this, and people probably don't even know that. It's amazing. So
behind the scenes. I actually took a picture of how my setup looks right now because it's so funny looking. I have like reams of paper.
Oh, put it in the comments later, like behind the scenes of today's. I want to see that.
This what you see and what I see.
Exactly. I actually did that earlier in the year. I had a webinar, and it like I didn't have my own office at the time, and I had like a screen, so it was like really funny because it was like my desk with a screen, and then behind it was like our guest bed or something, and just like all this stuff. And I was like, but in the video, it doesn't look like there's anything.
Yeah, you have no idea though. Yeah, that works. Okay, so the like right before you have like the week leading up to the webinar, you have a dry run with your webinar guest, and you assign someone to man the station.
Yeah, or woman it.
And day of, what should you expect? What should people be thinking about?
Yeah, so obviously definitely it's great to like jump on like even just like 10 minutes before, like have everyone come into like Zoom, and a lot of the tools like they have like almost like a green room, so like everyone come in before you go live. So definitely making sure everyone has access to that is really important. And your presentation's finalized. I apologize if some of these things like I'm saying because like it's so part of like our process, and I'm like, oh yeah, you have to like do all these things. And like
we're doing it so much.
Yeah,
that we're like, what is it that I do?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've done like 30
part of me now,
or like more, maybe like 40 this year. So, but yeah, just getting all the tech set up, like we talked about, making sure like people are good, like testing. But then of course like the webinar is gonna like just like start and talking through the presentation and the speaker speaking and everything. What we like to do, and you can actually set up in Zoom as well, is like to have some like interaction, so you can like put up like polls. So it's good to like have all that preloaded, so you can just like launch it and have people like engaged while they're on the webinar and respond to the polls. We also really like to like do the Q&A or like comments. So what we actually do is like, and I actually highly recommend this, is we'll come up with some like pre-seeded questions, and then we'll like have like people like go in and like kind of like ask them. It's like a little bit like it's like you're seeding them, but it is really nice. Like our speakers will like know like some questions that people would typically ask them, and then we'll just like go in and like ask them actually, because sometimes like people don't want to be the first one to like ask a question, but once like it starts to get going, it really starts to get going. So that's nice to just like prepare in advance some questions that you know that you want your speakers to like answer live while they're on the webinar. And we always like to leave like a little buffer at the end to really get into it. Yeah, and then I feel like we could probably talk a little bit more about the engagement stuff. I know we were talking about that before.
Yeah, I want to talk more about engagement. I find that to be the hardest thing to organically make happen in webinars. So how do you do it? I know you're really good at it. I was at one of your webinars, I don't know, early this week or last week.
I feel like it's like you gotta give a little to get some, to be honest with people. So, and like that's just how it is, but just fine. But it's like you can make it really exciting. So one strategy we did, which has like been really effective, is for like each webinar, like everyone who joins live and stays till the end is like entered into like a random drawing, and we do like a giveaway. We like give them like a $50 Visa gift card or some like maybe like some like cool like tech gear, or like, so if you have something in your, doesn't even have to be something that big, it could be something small, but I think people just get really excited like, wow, this is kind of different. And
Yeah, it is different. I haven't been on a webinar where anyone did that.
Yeah. And yeah, we've seen a lot of success with it. And we actually, when we did the first on air, specifically that series, webinar series, we did like every webinar there was a giveaway, but then there was a grand prize actually. And in the grand prize was one of those like the workout mirrors.
I
That
would
was
buy
like so cool. Yeah, they're like we like come up with these like crazy ideas and they're like, yeah, let's go for it. So
you're like, okay.
they're like amazing. But it was like it was amazing because so many people couldn't go to the gym in March, April, June.
Yeah, it's the perfect time to do that.
Right. And like, so what we did is like for every webinar you sign up for was like an entry into so we would do like if you sign up for the webinar and the ones that you attend, that would equal like entry into the grand prize.
Okay.
Yeah. So almost like a sweepstakes or something. So that was fun. And we gave away one. The person was like so excited. Like you could kind of at one point, like some people like generally were actually interested in the content, but some people you've like they're interested, but they were also like really excited to try to like win. So like kind of gamifying it. I think it's something to consider.
That's awesome. I love that idea. And I haven't seen that anywhere else.
Yeah, it's fun. And honestly, like even just the simple things of like making something like more interactive, so like anyone who happens to like jump in, like that's why I always say that it's like I actually really want to like connect with people. And it's nice to even like maybe stop mid presentation or like buffer that into it so that like you're not leaving everything to the end, and you have like opportunity to like let people like answer, like you kind of like answering the questions a little bit like more like live and things like that, so people really feel like they're like engaged, like it's not like you're just talking at them the whole time.
Yeah, it's a conversation. That makes sense. Okay, so to drive engagement, you do the sweepstakes.
Yeah, so if you can.
At the end, have polls set up ahead of time and have pre-built-in questions so you can start the conversation.
Yeah, I know that like some people will turn off the chat. It definitely just depends like what you like your preference, but having like the chat and the Q&A is actually really nice. And so I don't think like people should shy away from the chat. I think especially if you have a couple of people who can like help manage that while like the presenters are speaking. It's just really cool. And I like when you're like on a webinar and you have the chat and people are like saying where they're tuning in from, and it's like all around the world. It's just it's like a global event. It's exciting.
It feels bigger. It feels like real when you have that.
Exactly.
So after the webinar, what are the next steps once you hit end and you're done with the webinar?
Yeah, well, you definitely want to make sure that it gets saved to the cloud or to your computer.
Yeah. Hit record.
Yes, hit record and then end it. But usually we haven't really run into any issues, thankfully. But yeah, like pulling down everything. We actually have like a video editor who will like kind of go through and maybe like edit it slightly. And we add on like an intro and outro and like YouTube bumper for the YouTube video. So we do like some light editing for it, but not too much. And then I think like once you have like the video and all that, like putting it up on your website, on YouTube, and then giving people access. So we turn around pretty quick. We actually like people typically expect to receive an email with the recording within 24 hours. So we like the same day, we just have it buffered in the day. Like my team just like bangs it all out like right after and gets it done. They have it like down to a science. Yeah.
Know that this is what they're doing that day.
Yeah, exactly. And then what we actually, so since we have like for this client in particular, we have like kind of create like an on-demand library. It's like the registration and then like the previous content. My team just like swaps out that content and turns it into like its own like instead of the registration page, it becomes like a landing page with the video to like YouTube. So you do that, huh?
Saves time too, not having to build a new one.
Yeah, exactly. They came up with that idea. I was like, that's really smart. And then or you could like publish a blog post. I know that people will do that too. But any if any, like you definitely want it to live somewhere on your website in addition to YouTube. So just for like SEO ranking and having like that like library of content. Yeah, and then we just like to like send out email after and then once like if you have it ungated, then like just doing some like promotion on social afterwards to like direct people to that content.
Okay, so add them to a nurture campaign.
Yeah.
Put it on YouTube. Put it on your website too, so you don't lose that SEO.
Yep. Exactly.
And then create some social around it. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, I think that really wraps up the topic, beginning to end. Can you you have new content around webinars, don't you?
Yeah, we put out a blog post this week actually of like how to like 10 steps to hosting a successful webinar. So I can drop that in the comments. And then we're actually we're putting together like a very extensive guide. So that will be available in the coming weeks as well. So yeah, I could share more info if you follow us on social or go to our website. You can access all this information.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. You can put it in the comments. It won't show up on LinkedIn, but I'll put it in afterwards.
Cool. Perfect.
And before you hop off, can you just tell everyone who's going to be watching this, how they can work with you?
Sure. Yeah. If you go to our website, aimtal.com, we're actually also like doing free assessments. So like free marketing assessments. So you could, if you're interested, you can like submit your information there, and we'd be happy to like give you some advice and insight for like Q4 into 2021 with your marketing plans.
That's a good deal.
Or you can just reach out to us, reach out to me via our website. It's aimtal.com.
Okay, thank you. All right, so she'll be giving us the link to her new webinar blog, and reach out to Janet because she's a rock star and assessment.
I'm so excited we got to do this.
Hi, me too. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I remember we were talking through all this like before, so it's really cool to see all of your big ideas coming to life. It's amazing.
Yeah, we've been talking for a while now, and it was just a baby of an idea then.
For sure. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining me today. And sorry, my lighting went weird halfway through. Next week is a solo show, and I'll teach you how I repurpose these live streams that you're watching right now into multiple pieces of content, saving me loads of time. And as a reminder, you can work with me in a few different ways. I work with small B2Bs as a virtual marketing director, running everything for them. I work with marketing agencies and small marketing departments to support their content marketing creation. And you can join my live streams as a guest. Just go to sarahnoelblock.com/livestream. I said and a little too soon because there's one last thing. You can join my monthly marketing challenges where you learn a new skill and implement it in 4 weeks. Go to sarahnoelblock.com/challenge to get notified. Thank you, everyone, and I'll talk to you next week, 11 a.m. Central Time on Friday, and it's LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Bye.